Hi, in this illustrative example, we'll take a closer look at the scatter diagram to estimate future costs. So we'll use a telephone expense as an example, and something to highlight here that we don't necessarily always need to use units as our independent variable. So it doesn't have to be a single product unit. It could be anything that causes costs to be incurred. So let's look at the telephone expense as an example. So here we have the telephone bill for the last, say, 7 months. So we've got from January up to July, and it shows us the number of calls each month. It shows us the total duration in minutes each month, and then it shows us the total cost in currency units. So now we want to estimate the future cost. So we want to estimate, say, the cost for the next month of August, and we want to see if we can use this past information to help us estimate. So the first question is, which one of these two activities do you think caused the total cost to increase? Or which one is the better explanation, or which one can we use to better explain the behavior of the total cost? Is it total number of calls or the total duration in minutes? Now we can all agree that both would cause the total cost to increase. If we make more calls per month, the cost would increase, but also if we spend more time on the phone in minutes, we'll increase the cost. But which one do we use to estimate the future telephone expense? So for this, we can use the scatter diagram to see how strong is the relationship between the activity and the total cost. So here I've plotted the number of calls and the total cost on a scatter diagram. So for each month we have a little dot like this. So this would have been the month where they say it was about 180 calls, and that cost us 1,400, and then we plotted each of the 7 months from our past telephone bills. Now, does it look like these dots or the past observations represent a straight line? If we had to draw a straight line through this, through these plots, where would you draw it? Would it look like this? So that's sort of in the middle, or like this? It's very difficult to see the relationship between the total number of calls and the total cost. Now just think logically, does it make sense that there's no strong relationship? Because surely if we call more, we should spend more. But the problem is some calls maybe last a few seconds, and then other calls might last a few hours, and it might be overseas, like foreign calls, which is more expensive. So the relationship between calls and costs is not as direct as we suspected. Now let's look at the relationship between the total duration and the total cost. So this is the amount of time we spend on the phone. So again, we plotted all the months, so each of the months represents a dot on this line. So for instance, when we called for 600 minutes or spent 600 minutes on the phone, that cost us 1,400 in that particular month. And now let's see if we can draw a line, a straight line through these observations. Now if we look at these observations, there's only really one way we can draw the line, and that would be in this direction. Exactly where we draw the line will still be slightly subjective, but if we are very fine, look very closely, we should be able to draw at least some approximation of a straight line, or this line of best fit. And now since the relationship or the dots fall more or less in a straight line, this indicates that the relationship between total duration in minutes is much stronger to total cost than were the case for the total number of calls. And then since there's a strong relationship, using this line of best fit for estimation purposes would be more accurate. Now, how do we actually use this line to estimate all the telephone cost for August? So if we expect to make calls for a duration of 700 minutes during August, we can simply now read off. So we extend the line upwards, and then from there we can draw the line to the cost side. So it would be roughly 1,700. And that's how we use the scatter diagram to use past information, past observations, to draw a straight line. That's our linear equation line, and then read off the future cost for an estimated activity level. Now, the scatter diagram, as we saw here, could be used to check for a linear relationship. So if the dots are all over the place, then the relationship is not that strong, like the case of the number of calls versus the cost. And then if they do fall more or less in a straight line, then the relationship is stronger. And then we can draw the line of best fit through those points and then read off the total cost, depending on the estimated activity level. And then, as I said, this is the least reliable method, but it's quick and easy to understand.